I like science fiction movies when there's a salvage ship, you know, and they're like out there looking for salvage stuff, and they come across like a monster, or they come across like a, you know, an alien or something. I like that a lot. Oh, it's a little bit too low, isn't it? Sorry, y'all. I like those science fiction movies. I'm always trying to salvage wood. This is longboard wood. I make a long board version. It has a nose and tail kick. Just loaded 3 in the press just now on press number 3. Oh, you can actually see press number 3 back there. This is a good angle. But this longboard wood it's 48, 50 inches long, and what I have to do with this wood is I have to take one of my plastic inserts. You know, I put these between all of the decks that are in the press. So for 3 decks, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those in there. And hi, Bryce. Get touch the screen. Yeah. So this long wood, I mean, this is really, really long. I've got to take this and cut it down, and because my presses are only 38 inches long. My boards come out a lot shorter than 38. I like to have 36-inch wood. And what's interesting about cutting them down, all I do is I get all the defective ends. I get all the defective ends down at one end, you know, so I go through them all, and I get the right thicknesses. I get all the defective cracked ends and everything flipped around to one side. So I'm going to be cutting off knot holes. I'm going to be cutting off anything that is like long cracks or weirdnesses. I put all those weird spots on the end I'm cutting off. And then I take the whole, this is one board, 7 pieces, collated by thickness. I've had multi-thickness veneer now for a little while, and I'm navigating a quantity of salvage wood that I got from someone else. And this quantity of wood, I picked it up. It was a super good deal. Many thanks and much love to the person who gave me this wood. But what I'm doing is I'm cutting off the end, and look what I get. That's crossband, and crossband is the one part of the board that can be spliced. Now, there were 2 years during which I was splicing nose ends and even double piece 18-inch crossbands in my boards. And those crossband splices work extremely well. I mean, they're really, really strong. There's no loss of strength because now, so here I'm on a core piece, and I'm cutting. It's going to take more cuts because this is a full, and here I have another piece, and look at that. It's almost square. Perfect crossband piece for splicing. And I bet you in a year or so, you're going to see some of my decks coming. Now, here's a crossband piece, and it's really long. This is, again, I'm just cutting again. And every single one of these pieces that I trim comes out being a useful piece of 12-inch wide crossband, some of them 10-inch wide as I go down through the process. And I simply stand it up, put it there, and I go through each piece, and I cut. So every single board gets looked at inside and out from the start. This is why my lead times, look man, lead times have got me bummed out. You guys are ordering your boards, and some of you are waiting. I've got one customer waiting for a wheel weld deck for 2 months now. And I communicated clearly with that dear customer who I care very much about. I communicated very clearly that it was going to take me time to jig up my wheel wells, because wheel wells and me, we have a rocky relationship. I don't like wheel wells unless I know what size wheel you're riding and what brand trucks you're riding, so I can match those wheel wells up and take out as little of the board as possible, you know. But this lead time stuff, I'm going through every single deck. I'm not just collating them and putting the bad stuff on the ends where they get cut off, but I'm also going through another time when I make the cuts and looking at every sheet. And, you know, there are days when I choose to put a piece of wood on the top of a skateboard that has a defect, a knot hole, or a crazy pattern, because I want that to come through. That is something that is looked askance at by some of the classy makers out there who I think are awesome. I really do. I care very much about other makers, and I also care a reasonable bit about their opinions. But Tommy Story, my road dog. But I just pulled these out of the press, you know, this is a 3-pack. I pulled this out of the press just now, and I couldn't be more excited about my upcoming cuts. I've got cuts going on in the cut shop. I'm here at the glue table really pressing up volumes, and this is what puts me in a good mood, friends, is pressing these up. But like, here's one. I use a rough top piece. I do not use a super smooth top piece. Because of this salvage wood that I'm using, that I got from another maker, I'm using rough top pieces and finely sanded 1/20th. They're about 1/20th. Rex Harris, I see you. I love you, brother. I love you so much. Yeah, I use a rough top piece because your grip is going to stick better to that. I use a smooth, right now I've got lots and lots of this thinner, smoother, super silky veneer that doesn't even need to be sanded. It's honestly, it's a little bit gross to me because I like texture. I mean, I've left a shit ton of texture in this. I'll try and get you to see it. You can see it if I turn it the right way. There's a shit ton of texture in the grain of this top piece. That would be a core piece. That would be buried in the board by a factory. They'd be running those through the sander again, thinning them down. Not me. And I'm proud of that. And if you don't agree with it, I back your play. I back it, man. Like, let me teach you how to make boards and make boards. My dream in life is for there to be 1,000 workshops like mine making skateboards in whatever country you are. I got friends in the UK, I got friends in Australia making boards in workshops more than ever before. This stuff is going to become normal really soon. And, you know, all the way out, here's another 3-pack I didn't even finish. What are you doing, Rocco? Shop dog. This set I just pulled out of the press, and I'm just pulling out their separators, and I'm reloading the press right now. And these three, I mean, this one's got, that's not a blemish to me. That's a mark that reminds you that you're skating something that came from a tree, you know? And again, they've got these silky bottoms on them, and but I don't throw out a piece because it's got some brown marks on it. I was looking at some factory seconds from a very, very, very reputable and well-respected factory that makes boards, and they were bumping stuff out of production just for having some striated grain, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, that's the life of it right there, is that grain and the texture. I just had a write-up in concretelunch.com. I was very pleased that Bob Lofton, super intelligent guy, gave me a write-up, and he wrote up one of my boards, and he was saying that to him it seemed I didn't use quite as much finish as he might have expected I would use. And my response to that is, actually, I'm putting on 4 coats of finish. What is not happening is I'm not using a gloss finish, and I use a satin finish. I've used gloss before. I'm not like not going to use gloss, but I am not sanding the wood until it is so tame that you can't tell that it came from a tree. And I'm not, what you call it? I'm not using gloss finishes to try to make it look like candy from a candy store. I want these things to look rugged and feel rough. And I'll tell you what, when it comes to making grip tape stick to a skateboard, that choice of mine to use rough tops and smooth bellies on my layups, I'm sticking behind that like Amy Semple McPherson stuck to her story back in the day. You guys probably don't know about her. She's pretty interesting. Women of history. And so I'm in here trimming and getting this next 9-board layup ready to go in the press and having a great day. The boy rode his motorcycle to school this morning, and I ran around hunting down truck parts, wiring, harness pieces for a guy who rides for me, has ridden for me for years, Sean Gibson. He married his sweetheart, and they moved into my 3rd-story apartment at my house, and his Jeep immediately broke down, and Sean and I go on regular forays looking for parts to repair his stupid computer in his Jeep. And I just respect and love Sean so much for how hard he works at his job and how faithful he is to keep chipping away on this Jeep repair. But my truck didn't die. What I thought was a complete transmission meltdown turns out, see, on this one I'm trimming these from 50 inches long down to 36, and I'm going to get rid of the knot that's there, even though it's not a perforated knot. And even if it were a perforated knot, I'd leave it in the middle of a board. I love leaving imperfections in the middle of boards. Sometimes there's a mild dent in a board, but I've never in 10 years had a board fail because it had a knot inside it. I think it's a myth. Low power, it says. I don't mind a bit. Welcome to the shop. Those of you just joining me, I'm trimming down my next batch of wood, and this is a process when I'm using wood that I've salvaged out on an intergalactic mission. I pick up a distress call that somebody wants to liquidate some of their veneer. I've been doing this for a little while. When someone wants to liquidate some veneer, maybe they're getting out of the game, maybe they want to barter it for something else, I go and I pick up their wood, and I've lived off of barter wood for the last, couple years. If anybody in my area wants to sell me some wood, I'm into it, but I'm planning a trip to my favorite place to buy skateboard wood. It is Marwood Veneers in New Albany, Indiana, right across from the Louisville Skate Park. The perfect place for me to go in my truck when it's fixed and pick up a load of fresh veneer. I'll be picking up just a few $100s worth, maybe 20, 30 boards worth. I actually have, let me just make sure, I'm trying to use all 1/16, and I loaded these batches with some 1/20th sanded. I was going through my stuff, and I had a lot of 1/20th sanded ply, and I'm pulling all but one sheet of that from each of these and replacing it with a full 16th sheet. 2 sheets of sanded ply is a disaster waiting to happen. And a lot of skateboards now have got 3 or 4 sheets, not only of sanded ply, but also of strange Asian birch materials. And guys, I don't know if they've been sneaking poplar into your skateboards, but I have my suspicions that they've been sneaking poplar into our skateboards, because when I look at some of the failures at the park, I just can't help but wonder, hey, that looks a lot like a layer of poplar. But I don't know. That's the kind of crazy conspiracy theory you'd expect from some bearded lunatic who wears more than one hat and rides a Harley Davidson. Of course, you didn't come here to see that, did you? But I'm pulling out some of the thinner veneer. That is a very nice product. I'm only letting that be the bottom of the board, which when I'm laying them out, that's the top layer. And then I simply take one of my separators, lay it on the top, and I just cut down through the stack. And I'm looking for a 36-inch layup. One layer. And this, I showed this earlier in the film. This makes me a piece of spliceable material. It can splice just like this. You can see the splices in the side of the board when I do it. And every single bit as strong and high quality as a contiguous piece of crossband. You cannot splice long grain. You can't splice the regular cores and face plies. That said, I once had a board that came from a very reputable skateboard brand based out of Santa Monica. And that board had 2 splices on the long band, which is suicide. They were in the tail, right where it should snap. Not only did I ride that board for a while, I gave it to my son Marcus. Marcus, his heritage is Samoan. You know, American Samoa, right? And my little brother son Marcus rode that thing forever. That thing would not die, which is what I think that is. I think that's because it spent the right amount of time in the press and in glue. And I think I just saw one of my customers drop in here, and I bet he's wondering where his wheel well deck is. And it's in the other room getting worked up. I've been stabbing at wheel wells, and I'm going to get it right, and I'm going to get it out to you, dear friend, with love and respect, and thanks for your patience. Assuming that I haven't made you so mad so far. One does assume. But it's in the stacks this week. I was trying to get it done before my trip to Tampa. I failed. I do fail. But I'm here, and you can see me, and I'm giving it all I got. I'm not going to hide when my lead times are long. But the rest of the queue, I should have you guys cleared within these next 2 work weeks, and by that I mean probably within the next 1 work week, including dear Wheelwell customer. I should have you guys cleared very shortly, and you should be shredding on my product very shortly here. So, stacking them up. I've got 3, I'm doing 9, and again, I'm taking super long wood, I'm trimming it, I'm saving the trims for splices, mostly gonna be flow boards, or I might bring those splices right into my normal makes, because I've done it before for years at a time. I've used splices only on the crossbands. And I just told the story of a very, very well-known brand pressed at a very good American workshop. And that board had splices in the long grains. That is a big no-no. And that thing lasted, not only under me, but under my Samoan son, who at the time weighed 360 pounds. And he slayed on that board for like 6 months. I think it has a lot to do with press time, cure time, and glue coating. And those are things that make your lead times what they are. out of the workshop here. And those are things that make your skateboards really good. Let's see, and I'm watching my thickness because I'm dealing with multiple thicknesses. My goal is to make a skateboard out of entirely 1/16 thick veneer. My goal is for your deck to be 7/16 minus some sanding. That's my goal. And here is a super thin. So I need a full 16th sheet. I don't want any interior sheets to be super thins. The super thin is more like a 1/18 or a 1/20. It is a sanded ply that's meant for tops and bottoms. They make this sanded stuff and they sell it to board makers. It's beautiful and sanded, but it is thin. And last month I made some boards that had 2 sheets of sanded material in them. And I'm riding one right now, strong, but notably more flexible than the stout layups that I'm proud of. I like my boards to be stout and well cured so they're not particularly heavy. And this is right. And then I've got one more super thin to get rid of underneath. So, but before I go, I want to show you again just FOTL, fruits of the labor. I'm going to show you this. I just pulled these guys out. And this is one of my happiest places. This is 3 decks that just came out of the press. 3 brand new baby decks. Those are going into cure. And I do a 4-day cure. That is sometimes a 4th day cure. 2 days of curing is adequate because my climate control in there is on point. But these were in the press. Yeah, these were in the press for a week while I was 2 weeks while I was on my bike trip. These guys. Just popped those out in the last couple batches here. And they're going to go over to cure. And I like to cure them for the first day all together. Let them relax together. And then separate them the second day of the cure. And let the 3rd and 4th day of the cure do their thing. Here's another set of 3. And I love this. Yes, I do everything I can to make it worth the time that you wait for your board. Thank you guys for joining me for this video. And I'm going to finish this up, get these things in the press. I've got 3 I just put in the longboard press down there. That is a long version of my mold. It's longer and it's wider and it's more mellow. And we're getting a lot of different boards off of that 3rd press down there. Getting a lot of really cool layups off of that. And then I've got my 2 standards here, and I have 2 more presses. One of them is on loan to a young board maker who I'm trying to help get started, and the other one is in my basement mortuary workshop. So thank you guys for joining. Thanks for being with me in here. I'm going to get back to it and get 6 more in the press today. And then tomorrow I'm going to have boards coming through paint and finishing up. I've got 3 local pickups going to be ready tomorrow. Thank you, Eric, for saying a nice thing about my long mold, and put my heart into making that. And I'm going to put my heart into what I'm making today. Thanks, everyone, for joining me, and greetings and peace from the workshop. Catch you on the flip side. Hi, Mom. I love you.